This meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees was previously called to order. The presence of a quorum has been established, and the meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and as usual, we'll start off with the prayer and the pledge. And Ms. Harrison, it is your turn.
Bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for every seat that has been filled here today. For each mind and heart that fills the presence of this room, we thank you. Only you truly know what we are setting out to accomplish today. Thank you so much for this amazing district and all the students and staff that make it is what it is. You've blessed us with amazing teachers who pour their life into these children, and we are forever grateful. Lord, we ask that you allow our students and staff to use these few months off as a restful and reflective time so they can come back in August reinvigorated and ready to learn. And lastly, Lord, I thank you for this community who trusted in us to build these wonderful new safe schools for our kids. And I pray that you keep a watchful eye over our students and staff as they return to school in August, and give a peace of mind to those parents and guardians heavily depending on us to keep them safe. Lord, watch over those families in Uvalde who are coping with the unimaginable. You are a good Father, just and righteous. Though our circumstances will be unfair from time to time in this life, you are always our unwavering protector and shield, for we are forever grateful in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Harrison. We do not have any action coming out of executive session, and so the next item on our agenda is special recognitions. Just getting it all set up. It's okay. The next item on our agenda is special recognitions.
Hey, I heard that time. I heard that. Okay. Good evening, board members and Dr. Crawford. Tonight, we wanted to share with you some successful student outcomes. We wanted to say congratulations to the following Tyler Legacy High School students for their academic performance in the following academic competitions. First, we have National Junior Achievement Virtual Stock Market Challenge. Are y'all going to come up here?
Let's go.
Sorry.
Board, if you could go down to the front. We don't have Student of the Month during the summer, and usually we're used to queuing ourselves to go down there. So pardon us, community, for the
I didn't have that cue.
lack of logistics.
Sorry. I know, and this is my first time to do this.
We couldn't tell.
But at least it's summer, right? It's smooth sailing from here on. Okay? Ready? Okay. All right, National Junior Achievement Virtual Stock Market Challenge. The following team of students finished 8th in the nation. Would Edgar Hernandez please come up to the front? And this is a team, so we're going to announce them all together. We have Leon Caba and Daniel Cautry here with us tonight. Leon. Yeah. Yeah. See, y'all don't have this much excitement normally, right? Okay, next we have for the state UIL academic finals, have Stephen Young, and he received 4th place in poetry interpretation.
Way to go!
Okay, in that same category, we have Kassar Yasin. Very good. Received 6th place in persuasive speaking and is a semifinalist in the National Speech and Debate Tournament. And next we have for the National Speech and, oh, sorry. Okay, next for the National Speech and Debate Tournament, we have Colton Edelman here as a state qualifier. That is it. Thank you very much. That's it. Short and sweet.
You got a song for Okay, and that concludes our special recognitions. Next, we have continuous improvement in student outcomes. CLI, in-class, Renaissance, and Year update, T-test walkthrough and evaluation update.
All right. So unfortunately, I can't say that this is my first time. But President Washman, trustees, Dr. Crawford, we are happy to be here in front of you tonight to kind of close out our 21-22 school year with our local assessments and our diagnostics, as President Washman said. We will start with our CLI data. Awesome. So for CLI Engage, we also call this Circle. We did Wave 3 throughout the end of April and beginning of May. This is administered to all of our pre-K and Head Start students. It is offered in English and Spanish. It assesses math and early literacy reading skills, as well as social and emotional measures, and early writing skills. And again, those social and emotional and early writing skills are done through teacher rubric, while the rest of the assessment is done one-on-one with the teacher, again with an iPad and or computer. So first we're gonna look holistically, and as you can see, we see some great growth from beginning of year to end of year. This data represents only students who were enrolled full year, but again, we see tremendous growth happening through our early literacy. In math, we see a little less growth, but it's not abnormal. We also, as you can see, started with students with stronger math skills at the beginning of the year. And again, the assessment is the same assessment each time that the student takes it. So the way that this data is being represented is saying students are on track due to their age. So for a 4-year-old or 5-year-old by the end of the year. But it is considered being on track to be successful in kindergarten. And again, the social and emotional and the early writing are scored with a teacher rubric. That teacher rubric is an always, sometimes never, to describe students' behaviors and or their consistency of writing. So as we break down for each program, we have pre-K tuition, pre-K non-tuition, and Head Start. We see very positive trends in all of our early literacy, the strongest being in our Head Start program. And what this data is showing us is by the beginning or by the end of the year, they are competitive with their non-tuition pre-K peers and close to competitive for their pre-K tuition peers going into kindergarten. So that is a tremendous growth for them and has us really excited for their progress in kindergarten, which Dr. Ward will talk about here in a little bit. Again, the social and emotional pieces.
Quick question.
Yes.
Dr. Crawford, Head Start, I know we had to battle to get some of our curriculum that we desired about 2 years ago, I think.
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Right.
Do you think that has anything to do with the amount of growth we're seeing in our Head Start this year and the ability to get our curriculum in front of those students as opposed to what there was before?
I do think the autonomy that we have now to use to do it the way we want to do it, I think that the folks up in Dallas, I think they're on board with that. They've had a changeover in staff there. I mean, it's not the same folks that we're working with, so they've allowed us to do what we need to do here at the local level, and this is part of it. So
Yeah,
I
all
do
three
believe that.
programs use the same curriculum.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
it was new this year, so this is the first year of implementation. So I think that would speak to how effective it is for students in our Head Start program. I think something that to consider going into next year is how we can extend and make sure that our pre-K tuition students who are already semi-kindergarten ready coming into pre-K can be enriched through that. So we're still learning with that, but all three programs do use the same curriculum.
We're very appreciative of Head Start allowing us to have some autonomy in what we're doing.
Okay, thank you.
So the next slide is looking at our major demographics. So we have our African American students, our Hispanic students, and white students. Again, we still see those positive trends across the early literacy skills. Through our social and emotional and early writing, we did see some dips, but again, that is through the course of a school year in which students' behaviors do change, expectations do get higher throughout the year, but we will continue utilizing some professional development for teachers throughout this year to support behaviors, as well as early writing. Something to note for our Hispanic students is that does include both Spanish-based and English versions of the test, so that data is combined. And we are looking into supporting campuses through their LIFT plan and our LIFT initiative to ensure that our African American students will continue growth and match that of their peers.
Good evening, Board. And I'm going to discuss the M-Class Amplified data. And this data, we are assessing students in kindergarten through second grade, their reading skills. These students are assessed one-on-one with the teacher 3 times a year. At the beginning, actually middle of the year, I reported this data to you, and I was talking about how we were really working on small group instruction and using this data for interventions. And we are really pleased with the results that we see here. As you can see, kindergarten students, they came in at the beginning of the year, we only had about 27% of students at or above benchmark, but we are ending the year with 61% of those students at or above benchmark. And also, percent of students with average growth was 70%, so that's phenomenal. In our first grade, as you can see, we had a 16% increase from 43% to 59%. In our second grade, 41 to 59 with an 18% increase. So anytime you can see double-digit gains and over 70% of students growing, that is phenomenal. Another thing I want to point out to you as well is that our kindergarten student, this is the first group of kindergartners in the last 2 years to have had uninterrupted kindergarten. So that's amazing too, because our current second graders were in kindergarten when the pandemic hit, and then last year, of course, our first graders came in. Some kids were at home, some were in school. So we're really excited to see, and you'll see the trend throughout this data that our kindergartners are leading the pack, which is great because that means we're setting them up with a great foundation. Another thing I want to point out, again, we have 61% ending kindergarten, but as you can see last year, only 43 of previous kindergartners started first grade at or above benchmark. We know that there will be a summer slide, but we are really pleased with the data. As you can see here, also excited because we are definitely working on closing achievement gaps, and you can see that we've made significant gains in all sub-pops. Our African-American students went from kindergarten 28 to 50%, which is phenomenal. Again, you can see there, we have double-digit gains across in every sub-pop, so that's awesome. And even our Hispanic students in kindergarten, 18% to 66%, whites 41 to 70%, and 23 to 57%. Again, I'm just going to really continue to highlight that kindergarten because a year of uninterrupted instruction makes a world of difference for the foundation for our students. As you can see here, with M class, we're looking at the reading skills. Again, great trends. When you are looking at beginning of the year to end of the year, when you have over 50% of those students that have their lettered sounds, decoding, we know decoding and reading, word reading is fundamental for students to read. And you can see, I mean, we had 9% of our kindergartners were able to come in, decode, and at the end of the year, we have 55% with a 46% gain. And then in word reading, 10% of our kindergarten students were able to come in and just actually recall some words. And by the end of the year, we had 52% of those students that were reading. So that's M class. Now I'm also going to talk to you about Star Renaissance, which is also a diagnostic. Now I just talked to you about M class. It is assessed one-on-one with the teacher, but Star Renaissance is assessed online, and we also administer this K through 8. It is our local diagnostic test that we assess students of reading and math content at least 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and the end. And we use this to project STAR proficiency and track our board goals. Know that we've talked to you guys about this in the past. It's very similar to STAR when we look at how we decide if a student is passing. They're either not passing, which is approaching the college and career readiness. That's what CCR means. Passing meets the CCR targets, or are they mastered? We're looking at all beginning of the year versus the end of the year for kindergarten through 8th grade. Again, we see a lot of growth. Again, I want to continue to highlight the kindergarten students. You have 66% that are approaches, 46% in meets, and 36% masters. We did have a slight dip in first grade, but it's not a large dip. In second, third, fourth, and fifth grade, we had some really good growth. And then again, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, we did not see a lot of growth on Renaissance, but we did not see a large decline as well. When we look at this based on our board goals, and this is the early literacy progress monitoring, we look at kindergarten students, we had 5 of our targets, 5 of our subgroups that met their targets, which we're really excited about that. In first grade, we only had 2 subgroups, the Hispanic and ELs, that met the targets, but again, we did not have a large decline. And then in second grade, we had 2 of the two subgroups, that met the targets. But again, no significant declines. We look at our math. We, again, kindergarten leading the pack once more, from 45% approaches to 64% approaches meet, which is really hard to obtain because that means that these students are solid foundations with their math skills. We went from 20% at the beginning of the year to 52%, and then our masters went from 8 to 22%. And as you can see, we had significant gains in our elementaries, and then of course 6th, 7th, and 8th grade did not see significant declines in those areas. We are definitely very pleased to announce that when you look at the targets for early numeracy, we see in kindergarten, we had a lot of our subgroups that met the targets. That we had our African American students exceeded the targets, our Hispanic students exceeded the target, ECO-DIS exceeded the targets, special ed and ELs. And in first grade, although we didn't have as many to meet the targets in ELs, we did have a large group number of those students, the sub-pops that met the target in first grade. And in second grade, while we did not meet the targets, we were very close. So we're just excited about the progress that we made this year. Teachers and administrators were working hard to close not only achievement gaps, but also close the gaps that were created from COVID. And so we're excited about what's happening. We're excited about, again, those kindergartners that will be entering first grade with that solid foundation. And we will continue to look at the data and continue to provide small group instruction and intervention to continue to move students forward and have successful student outcomes. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for our presenters?
Comment. Achievement gap's been one of my big things. I'm very pleased with the scores. It looked like we are working very hard to close that achievement gap, and I'm very impressed with the scores that we have. Hopefully we can keep it up. The socioeconomical aspect, and I think I asked this before, and I'm just trying to get reassurance, how we are dealing with that in the social, emotional, and early writing. How are we approaching that within the classrooms?
Yes, so Ms. Holland has brought in a consultant who has worked with monthly PD for our pre-K and Head Start teachers. So they were also learning a new curriculum and then also emphasizing some new techniques to implement in their classroom. So they're definitely learning this year to get stronger in order to make that happen more effectively next year. We are also introducing campuses to similar techniques through the same consultancy firm this summer to prepare for that going into next year.
Yeah, 'cause it's proven that the social-emotional aspect can definitely affect the overall grading. So that would be a good component to add, to improve, and see if the grades continue to go up higher, I think, the testing. In regards to the youth at Bolter, which tests are they going to be evaluated on?
They'll be using the Star Renaissance.
Which one? Star
The Star
Renaissance, that's what I thought. Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any comments or
I
questions?
just want to say this is really good data, and I love to see it. You guys are working hard. Teachers obviously are working hard. I really, really appreciate it. Sense of urgency sometimes is, every year we get another batch of kindergartners, and so looking at this data, it looks awesome. So just want to say thank you and appreciate everyone doing all the work.
I kind of giggle at the complexity of our assessment program. I was talking to another superintendent of a decent-sized district here in East Texas. Most recently, they were using a tax release test from like 2005 or 2006. That was a lot of the things that they were doing. So I really appreciate our teachers and our principals in having this ingrained as part of our DNA now. Dr. Ward, excuse me. We came in here at the same time, and that was something that was said at first. We were going to embrace assessment because assessment of learning matters, and the right assessments matter as well. So I'm very proud of our organization and their embracing of that as part of our DNA. Can you go back to the math slide, Mr. Bogue? Let's go to, there you go, right there. I wanted to highlight that 8th grade math right there. That's the class of 26, I think. Is that about right? Okay, remember last year in their 7th grade performance and how we kind of were concerned about that in regards to some stuff, and we kind of had we were puzzled about it. So really glad to see that they're ticking back up in the right direction as well. Again, we have a little dip in our 6th grade stuff. That's a class of 28. As the parent of a class of 28 kid, I could tell, and a lot of that sometimes has to do with what are our strategies on campus of making sure that every kid has a quality teacher in front of them at all times. And so there are reasons behind some of these that are sometimes unacceptable that we need to work on. And we've had plenty of discussions in regard to that as far as staffing goes and making sure that we're making the right decisions as far as leadership of our campuses goes to get teachers in those classes if there might be a gap there. So again, I just want to highlight the 8th grade performance because we were really concerned about what track they were on. And it even showed up in the fall or the beginning of the year as well. Good improvement.
I've been on the board 9 years, and I don't think I've ever seen a single slide that has had double-digit positive progress, since I've been on the board. I mean, that slide on the M class with the percent of students that are above the benchmark K through 2 is it's pretty awesome. So it's good to see, because if people don't know, we have 3rd grade goals. I mean, that there is very big emphasis on getting kids where they need to be by 3rd grade, especially in reading. And so I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of y'all. Thank you for putting in the work that it takes to get these kids where they need to be, these ones specifically. So,
And we had concerns about the 2nd grade, I think, also a year ago, and their scores were extremely low. But looking at that, it's definitely doing better.
it's good momentum to take into next year. And
We are definitely learning how to use these tools more effectively through our progress monitoring, and so kudos to Dr. Curitan and his team for really going out and supporting our teachers to make sure that they're using it with fidelity and doing the progress monitoring efficiently, especially to our high-need students. So,
absolutely.
Without getting too far out over our front foot, this does, we think, translate into our STAR assessment and results that we're going to get as far as accountability goes. So we're kind of waiting on that to get the final scrubbing, I guess, from TEA. Dr. Curitan, is that what you're shaking your head about? Okay. And so to be continued here with some crossing we're optimistically awaiting those, cautiously optimistic. So.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. All right, next we have our T-Test walkthrough evaluation update.
Per your board monitoring calendar, go ahead and have a seat, Ms. Taylor. We have Sherry Taylor, Executive Director of Human Resources, that's going to provide you an end-of-the-year briefing about our walkthrough evaluations. It's an extremely important part of the instructional process to get good coaching and good feedback from the instructional leaders on campus under the direction of our Chief School Officer. So, Ms. Taylor, can you please provide the board with that information?
Yes, sir. So good evening, President Washman, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Crawford. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight as I will go over the 2021-2022 T-Test evaluation data. So just a quick reminder, T-Test is a growth model fostering open communication between students and teachers and campus administrators. There's 3 components to T-Test. We have your goal setting and your professional development. The second component, that's the evaluation process, and that is your informal walkthroughs, your formal observation with the pre-conference observation and post-conference, and then your summative evaluation. And that third component is your student growth. And that measures how much a student has progressed academically during the year with that particular teacher at that time. All components together gives the teacher and the campus administrator feedback on what the teacher needs to work on with professional development to improve their instructional practices. So So this slide shows the total number of walkthroughs and evaluations that were completed this year in elementary, middle school, and high school. Campus administrators are required to conduct at least 4 10 to 20-minute walkthroughs, 2 in the fall and at least 2 in the spring. They're also required to conduct at least 1 45-minute announced observation. That announced observation requires them to have a pre-conference before the observation so they can work out the specifics with the teachers, and then they go in and see it in action. The next slide shows our total amount. This year, we had around 3,700 walkthroughs completed. That is because this year we added 1 extra walkthrough that administrators were required to do with teachers. It got them in the classroom so they can provide timely feedback to the teachers to improve the instructional practices that are going on in the classroom. That is an increase of 874 walkthroughs this year from last year. And as you can see, we completed 135 evaluation processes and right under 1,000 summative evaluations. So by monitoring our walkthroughs and observations closely, this allows the chiefs of school leadership to focus on specific needs of the campuses and the teachers in order to allow growth for successful student outcomes district-wide. So any questions with this data?
Anybody on the board have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you said they do 4 10 to 20 minute and then 1 45-minute. Is that for each teacher or are they selected? Each teacher has to have that?
That's per teacher, and that's the minimum.
Wow.
Yes, sir. So we have some teachers that have up to 8 walkthroughs and 2 observations, but that is the minimum.
Okay. And the principal does this?
Principal and campus administrators, principal, assistant principals on the campus.
Okay. Okay.
We used to not report this, Mr. Newsom, and so, what gets measured gets improved. Not that we saw a problem here, but when we switched over from the old PDOS, Professional Development Appraisal System, to the T-test, it was a good opportunity for us to start publicly announcing where we were at, to put a little bit of good pressure, on us as central office administrators and then on the campus as well to make sure that they're getting that done. That's how you improve instruction. It's to getting that coaching and that feedback from the instructional leadership on the campus and making sure it's getting done. So that's kind of a little bit of background about why we're presenting that to the board, because it's a little bit of an anomaly to actually present that to the Board of Trustees, but we think it's important to be able to do that and get y'all that information.
What exactly consists of a walkthrough?
So that's where they go in and they can observe 3 different ways. Domain 2, which is instruction, and just focus on domain 2 for that 10 to 20 minutes. Or they can focus on just domain 3, which is the classroom environment. That's the student behavior and a couple other dimensions with that. Or you can do domain 2 and 3 together. So typically they'll start with, at the beginning of the year, let's focus on domain 3 for 1.
Right.
Then let's focus on domain 2, but then towards the end, we really encourage them to put them both together. Because in 10 to 20 minutes, you can get an effective walkthrough on what's going on in the classroom.
So those are 10 to 20 minutes, and the observation is how long?
It's at least 45 minutes.
Got
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
Okay.
Well, I like that. I appreciate the information. It's good to know how we assess our teachers and the expectation of them in regards to somebody actually monitoring what's going on in the classroom.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next we have public participation. We do not have public participation. Okay, moving on to the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes on the agenda?
Motion to approve minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Ayes have it, the motion passes. Okay, business, legal, and finance, and consent agenda. I do believe we are going to pull and talk about separately C, F, G, I, and L. So I'll go ahead
Hey,
and,
Mr. Washburn?
yes,
I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
that's okay.
A little late minute pull here. Can you go ahead and pull B?
B.
Uh-huh.
Yes. We will also pull B. All right, so I will go ahead and entertain a motion then on items A, D, E, H, J, and K.
I move that we approve items A, D, E, H, J, and K.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and motion carries. Okay, then we will go ahead and pull item B to start with, which is consideration and action on an order. Do I need to read the whole thing, or do we need to?
No, sir, it's in your agenda packet, but we're going to let Tasha brief you
Okay,
a little bit
thank
on
you,
this
Tasha.
item. Since it's publicly put in your packet, I believe Counselor Hardy over there has said that you do not need to read the entire thing. Is that correct?
Okay, sometimes we do, so I was just making sure.
That's right. So, Ms. Bjork, our CFO, would you please like to brief the board in regard to what this agenda item entails?
Basically, this is a parameter sale order, which I've done before. We are intending to sell the bonds towards the end of June, and we won't be meeting again before then. So within certain parameters with the tax rate and that type of thing and the amount, you authorize either myself or Dr. Crawford to approve the sale. And then we'll come back with the results. Dusty will be back to present the results after the sale.
Okay,
It takes about a month to settle before we get the funding.
okay, good deal, and this is regarding the bond we passed, that our community passed, for $89 million for Hubbard and Early College High School.
Very similar methodology that we've done for the last 17-plus years since we started this, giving us the authority to go do that. Ms. Bjork, you may want to talk to the board, at least brief the public and even some of the new trustees, since we've got 3 new trustees on here since the last bond. What entails their conversations with, with you as far as the sale goes and things like that? Who do you speak with in regard to that, leading up to that?
Well, last week, I had to do 2 bond rating calls, Standard & Poor's and Fitch. We're rated AA by Standard & Poor's, AA plus by Fitch, and they will rate us sometime next week. They'll probably just uphold what we are, and we'll have an overall rating of AAA because of the PSF guarantee from TEA. And then tomorrow, I have to do a due diligence call with the attorneys for the underwriters and answer 5 pages worth of questions, and then they'll move on with the sale sometime after they get the ratings. So it'll probably be next week.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions before I entertain a motion on item B? Well, then I'll go ahead and entertain a motion on item B.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve item B.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Bjork. Okay, consideration of approval of gifts and donations. We always love doing this. Love our community. I think we have one from Marvin and their school that they kind of sponsors, Bonner Elementary, and then we have a special one from Train here, Dr. Crawford.
Well, on page 27 of your agenda packet, it's always an honor to present to the board these donations. We've got a special one here tonight with Train Technologies here, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So at first, we do have Marvin Methodist Church, long-time relationship with Bonner Elementary, $6,200. We're very appreciative of that congregation partnering with Bonner and the things that they do over there with the Bonner Bees. The Bonner Bees. Tonight, we've got Robert Rivers with Train Technologies to donate a curriculum, Discovery Education Learning for all campuses, to the value, the worth of $108,000. What an incredible partnership that we have in partner that we have in Train Technologies. This shows the incredible power of industry here in Tyler, Texas, in Smith County. So, Mr. Rivers, if you don't mind, would you like to come up here and maybe address the board before they actually take action, or actually consider your Train Technologies donation to Tyler ISD? Mr. Rivers.
So I'm Robert Rivers, plant manager for Train Technologies here in Tyler. At Train, our purpose is to boldly challenge what's possible for a sustainable world. One way that we'll do this is by uplifting underrepresented children around the world with learning environments, providing education and pathways to both green and STEM careers. We're excited. Many of our kids go to school in this district. Many of us have gone to school in this district, and we're excited about the sustainability and green curriculum experiences that this partnership will provide. Thank you.
Thank you, and we really do appreciate all that Train does for the community. It is definitely a staple here in Tyler, Texas, and Smith County.
I like to call on Mr. Jones every now and then. You researched some of this, Mr. Jones. Any feedback you'd like to give the board since you actually looked into some of this and its value for our school system and our kids?
Well, just that it's definitely an exciting opportunity for the students of Tyler ISD that's been provided by Train and the Slurper Head. We're looking forward to everything that education platform brings to the table to engage our kids further in those STEM careers.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and I'll go ahead without further ado and entertain a motion to approve these gifts and donations.
I move we accept these gifts and donations.
Thank you, Mr. Bergfeld. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. Moving on to items F and G. F has to do with our medical benefit plan and the employee premium rate changes for this year. And then G has to do with supplemental carriers for our Tyler ISD employee benefits. Dr. Crawford.
Yep, so we have Deputy Superintendent of Finance and Operations, our CFO, and also our tax rate calculation officer that y'all just approved. Tasha Bjork is actually going to be here to answer any questions that you may have about those two agenda items.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Bjork? Or would you like just an explanation of kind of what it is?
General explanation, but I know there was a change in deductible or something that I felt like need to be at least vocalized.
No premium increases. We instead focused on the deductibles and that type of thing because we're still so much lower than TRS Active Care. Now, TRS Active Care did not have increases in premiums this year either. So that's why we chose to do it. But we instead raised the deductibles a little bit, not much, not more than 5%, and the out-of-pocket for employees.
Thank you. I think that's something that I always like to look at benefits because a lot of teachers, when they're considering leaving the district, they don't think about the benefits.
Right.
And I think that that's real important for them to always consider the benefits in addition to the salary.
We're still way, on deductibles and out-of-pocket, we're way lower than TRS Active Care and premiums.
And it's good to know in a competitive environment for teachers, it's good to know that we are on the low end when it comes to insurance by being a self-funded district.
Yes.
So.
This last legislative session, but the legislature actually allowed school systems to start making choices again. Not too many of them opted out of TRS. Some did. When they called, some other superintendents did call me. I just kind of cautioned them because healthcare is becoming more and more expensive. As far as a budget manager goes, we see what we have to consistently pump into our budget to make sure we keep these things down and make it competitive so that we stay self-funded. Do I think in the future that there will be a consideration by this board of not being self-funded anymore? Yes, that is where it's heading. I hope that I'm not the superintendent here whenever that happens, and I hope that y'all aren't trustees whenever that happens. So maybe that's well into the future because that is not going to be fun. One last item, I will say that we are very happy with our partnership with Christus. They have been really good partners here, now going into our 5th year, I believe?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm very excited about that in regard to their flexibility in doing that. Our third-party administrator, Web TPA, we have found pretty good success with that as well. So I do think that we're getting a pretty good bang for our buck if the taxpayers are, wondering how effectively this is, how effectively we're managing that fund, and at the same time, what does that plan look like up against what TRS offers, or maybe some other plans there. We're very happy. We've got a great partner here in the capital of East Texas like Christus.
Good stuff. I'll go ahead and entertain a motion then on items F and G.
I move we approve items F and G.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay, moving on to item I. We need to approve a delegate and an alternate for Tacit Tasby Convention.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Bergfeld wants to do it, sounds like.
That was a not aye.
All I heard was aye.
Yeah.
Awesome job, man, thank you.
Could have jumped out there.
Like, okay.
Silence ensued. Okay, what are the dates there, Dr. Crawford?
September 20th.
23rd to the 25th in San Antonio this year, so a little different. They're off of their little Dallas run. I think it goes back to Dallas in 23, but this year is in San Antonio. Not sure, I can pull up the football schedules for you right now. I know that sometimes is a wondering, but it looks like 23rd, Legacy is at Mesquite that Friday. Tyler High has a Thursday game in McKinney. So if that's part of your fall calendar, I love what you like to do. So.
And this typically involves, what is it, Sunday morning kind of sticking around, or is it Saturday morning?
Yeah, it's the back end of it.
Yeah,
It's typically not when everybody wants to stick around. And you go in there and you have a placard and you vote up or down on certain referendums and other types of things. Dr. Nation has graciously told us that she would more than willing, I don't know about willing, if no one else wants to do it, she will consider being the delegate.
That's awesome. So Dr. Nation is going to be the
I move
delegate.
that Dr. Nation be the delegate.
Dr.
Well, we
Nation.
need an alternate, don't we?
We do need an alternate.
Thank you.
You want to be the alternate? Wait a
Andy
minute,
and
wait a
Dr.
minute,
Nation.
Wait a minute. Before, would you like to be the delegate?
Yeah.
No.
Or
No.
just, I mean, if you want to.
My calendar doesn't allow it.
Oh, okay. All right. Alternate? No alternate. Okay.
You're not required to send someone, by the way.
Okay.
So,
Great. Well, I mean, I think Dr. Nation has in the past made a great delegate, and I think she'll do a great job coming up. So, do I have a motion on that?
I made the motion.
All right.
I second.
Second that motion.
I third.
Third. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Nation, if you're watching on TV. We love you. We miss you. We appreciate you. Okay. Last but certainly not least on this consent agenda is to consider the selection of a general contractor for Bond 2022 Hubbard Middle School.
it's an exciting time here at the dais and the superintendent's chair to present y'all an action item for consideration to select the general contractor for the construction of a new Hubbard Middle School. I'm going to invite Mr. Loper up to the podium so that he can give a little brief presentation, not a presentation, but a little brief explanation of the process and how we've gotten here, any commentary he may have, and then introduction of his team, and then maybe the recommendation for the board to consider, and then answer any questions they may have. Mr. Loper?
President Washman, trustees, and Dr. Crawford, thank you. This is only my second time up here for Bond 2022.
Yeah.
Just for a little background on that, as far as the process goes, just like we did for the early college high school, we put out a RFP, request for proposals, to advertise in the legal time frame and all that. And we also had to publish a selected criteria, and we also had, it says in the board meeting, in the board agenda, 7 committee members. We actually had 8 because the one that didn't show up last time showed up this time. So we did have some community members, and of course myself, an architect from each firm, and Mr. Bedingfield and Mrs. Jones sitting behind me on the scoring tabulation. 50% of the points are price, and as we put out the scoring criteria to all of the other members, no one knew what the price was, because we did a rubric on that. So if you were 10% low, if you were lowest, you got all the 50 points. If you were 10% net within difference, you got 10% less of the points. So to make it fair, that's how we did that throughout the process. Part of it was quality and reputation of the contractor, was 20 points. Safety was 13. Execution of the project team and management approach was 5 points. And proposed construction schedule and phasing plan was 10 points. And just other relevant factors that were specifically listed was 2 points. We had an overall winner, of course, and it was CDI out of Little Rock, Arkansas. So our job then as a committee is to vet them and see if they in fact have done this type of work, and also call on references and all of that. Here's what we found out. CDI has been in business 40 years plus. They're licensed and or available in 45 states. They're based out of Little Rock, Arkansas, as I mentioned. They have several divisions within their company that do buildings. They are in healthcare, higher education, government, industrial, sports and entertainment, and K through 12, of course. That's just to mention a few. They're wholly owned. I asked them, so what does CDI mean? So it's Clark Dillard's Inc. Well, way back when, and some of y'all on the board may not remember this, when they used to build malls, Dillard's was always involved, and Clark was a construction company, and Clark was going south, and Dillard's just bought them out and had their own construction and building their Dillard's stores and malls.
Say Dillard's?
Yes, Dillard's.
I can't get past your East Texas accent.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Crow. I thought you were from East Texas.
I am. Okay.
Dillard's.
I got
Yeah,
you. Okay.
Dillard's. Anyway, that's just a tidbit of information. And what's interesting about this, you may notice in your agenda that Clark also turned in on this. That was when they split off, they went out on their own and started their own business. So that's just, to say the least, part of this is we look at their financials in their technical responses on this, and I promise you they are financially strong. Some of the notable projects that they've done in the past is they've done just about everything at the University of Arkansas. They've done buildings for Texas A&M. And more notably, they've done the Clinton Presidential Library there in Little Rock. And as I read up on that, was an interesting project. But anyway, it's a beautiful building. We are recommending to you that we enter into a contract with CDI. We feel comfortable with their numbers. We have discussed this with them. They feel comfortable with their numbers. And the amount that you see is $57,370,867. That includes the alternates, 2 alternates that we had in the project, which was a bus canopy up at the drive that cuts through, that dissects the project, and going from just natural grass in the courtyard to some basketball courts and paving and cement work down there in the courtyard. So this is within our bond budget, and we're pretty excited about it. And I do have a couple of the members here. We have Justin Broadnax, who is right there, and he's the project manager, has 37 years experience in the construction industry. Mike Millizer, did I say that right? Millizer is, he's not here tonight. He's one of the superintendents that'll be on the project. He has 33 years experience. And then we have another superintendent here that'll be on the project, Dustin Little, right there, and has 23 years. So altogether, we'll have 93 years experience on that project, and I'm pretty excited about if you guys approve having these folks here.
Okay, thank you for that information. Before I speak or ask any questions, does anybody on the board have any comments or questions regarding this specific item?
I've got a couple of comments and questions. Certainly seem like they're well qualified. It's great that we've got somebody with that much experience coming in here for this last phase of our bonds. I know years ago, the community, it was a big deal for us to use local subs. Did y'all discuss that, and are we going to be using some local subs, or are they going to be bringing people in from out of state?
We will be talking about and reviewing all of the sub-lists that they're presenting, but just in the brief conversations I've had with Mr. Broadnax, he already mentioned 3 of the major subs that are local here that they're using. I believe that our local subs just actually gave them better pricing than they did the other companies, because they all bid okay with every GC.
Good deal.
A little bit of other information about local subs as well. They were contacting us before the bond, before this bid, about wanting the work. So I don't think they're going to have a hard time finding that market here locally, from what I understand. Mr. Loper, you want to brief them, kind of give a description of that?
When we bid like the early college, we put the bid documents on our website. What we did different with Hubbard, because we couldn't see who was picking up bid documents, whether they're a sub or whether they're a major GC. So this time, we put the link through my office, and they had to go through Pamela King, our assistant there, to actually get to the plan. So then we were able to record, and we were able to see. Of course, subcontractors called, y'all got any new GCs or anything? Because they want to throw their bid out there to everybody. I feel comfortable. I can't speak about all of them, but I know the 3 major ones, which are mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and I believe steel, were all local companies. Site work and concrete's local, so.
That's a pretty big part of the project.
That's a big chunk of change. And I do want to thank y'all for allowing Tasha to sell the bonds. That helps.
No doubt. Any other comments or questions? Here's a question for you. Does that site allow for an 8-lane track?
There is an 8-lane track on it, sir.
Okay, great.
It's in the plans.
Awesome. Well, I was just curious about that one, and that would be good. And I'm excited to have y'all on board. Every other bond we've been on budget and on time, so that's our expectation from here. And
Okay. So one thing we want to publicly state, now, CDI, we certainly want y'all to give very great effort. We want these buildings open for kids to go to school in within a reasonable amount of time. Everyone understands kind of what's going on in the world right now. So this last grace, we practiced grace during the pandemic. We still want to be under budget and on time. But, you know, this little 6th grade class right now that's going to be 8th graders in December of '23, whew, it's going to be tough. Extremely tough. So I hope everyone understands that little asterisk that I put on every one of those 70 presentations of if things happen geopolitically that are out of our control, we need to understand that. So,
stuff going on right now?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
And we will do everything we can to expedite. Even CDI's asked us, you know, about some of those long-term lead items that everyone struggles with. And one of the things we've done, we've actually put it in addendum out there so everybody would know, and we're guaranteeing them, I'm hoping if y'all approve, he's ordering switchgear tomorrow. And if he can prove and he's got receipts, we'll pay him for it. And so we made sure that all of our contractors know that up front.
well, good deal.
Motion to approve CDI as the contractor for Hubbard Middle School project.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Thank you, Ms. Atkins. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Congratulations, guys. Look forward to seeing what you can do out there.
We'll do you a good job.
Appreciate it.
All right.
We really
Look forward
do.
to working with you.
Okay. Moving on to our next curriculum instruction and consent agenda. We have items A through O on this one. AO. Do I have a motion to approve items A through O?
I move we approve items A through O.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Now we have superintendent staff reports. We have a quarterly investment report and a quarterly financial executive summary.
Feeling like an every other month thing or every month thing, it seems like just goes by so quick. Ms. Bjork, do you have anything to update the board on in regard to investments or anything financial executive summary? Try it.
And then as far as the financials go, we'll just write mine.
Good deal. Thank you for that exhaustive report. And moving on to future business, we have one of my favorite days of the year in Tyler ISD, Wayne D. Boshier Center for Exceptional Programs graduation on July 14th and regular meeting on July 25th. If you can make it, go to that Boshier's graduation. It's worth going to. I will now entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries, and this meeting is adjourned.